is Polly Scotland, and she is going to be portraying someone that she and I both admire, Annie Smith Peck, a pioneering mountaineer. Polly Scotland is a retired dental hygienist, is a mother of 3, grandmother of 5. And Polly has pursued outdoor adventures all of her life. She has a written book, and she's about to publish a second one, which is really exciting, about skiing the mountains, kayaking the seas, biking the woods, and climbing mountains. Like Annie Smith Peck, just not quite as high, perhaps. Polly Scotland, Annie Smith Peck.
My name is Annie Smith Peck. I was born in Providence, Rhode Island on October 19, 1850, the only daughter in my family. I love the challenge of sports, but my 4 older brothers seldom let me join in their games. I practiced hard and I was determined to become better at sports than they were. All 4 of my brothers went to college, so naturally I wanted to go to college too. I attended the University of Michigan, where I graduated with honors in all of my subjects. I taught for a few years and became one of the first United States women college professors. I became interested in climbing mountains the first time I saw the Matterhorn in Switzerland. I was seized with a desire to one day climb that mountain. For the next 10 years, I prepared myself by climbing smaller mountains. And in 1888, I climbed Mount Shasta in California. 7 years later, in 1895, I climbed the Matterhorn. I was instantly famous for my endurance, my courage, and my unladylike attire. You see, women in my day climbed in bloomers or skirts. In 1892, I gave up teaching and supported myself by telling stories of my adventures. I wanted to climb to a height where no man had stepped foot before. I began to study the mountains of South America, and 5 times I attempted, without success, to climb Mount Huascarán in the Andes Mountains of Peru. At the time, it was thought to be the highest mountain in the Americas. In 1908, when I was 58, I made a 6th attempt to climb Huascarán. I hired 2 experienced Swiss guides and 4 porters to carry the load. We knew we would face bitterly cold temperatures and extremes. So I brought everything. I brought 2 wool face masks, fur mittens, wool underwear, and garments. And my boots were 4 times the size, my normal shoe size, to accommodate a thicker stocking. We began the expedition by riding burros for several hours until it was too dark to continue. The next day, the mountains were in the clouds, so I postponed the expedition. On the 3rd day, we reached the snowfield and set up the base camp. On the 4th and 5th day, we crossed the glacier between 2 high peaks. Our boots were studded with nails to grip the ice. The next day, we almost had to turn back when one of the porters carrying the heavy stove fell through a deep crevasse. But fortunately, we were able to rescue him and the stove. On the 6th day, we were very near the summit. And it was back-breaking work. We had to cut steps, most ice axe. The winds howled. The altitude was extreme, and we had to rest often. By late afternoon, we were very near the top, so one of the guides and I tried to determine how high over 20,000 feet we were. After a few minutes, we gave up, so we went and looked for the other guide. I was furious to find out that the guide had summited ahead of me. By tradition, the organizer of the expedition gets first summit, and that was me. I suppressed my anger, and I summited. And when I got to the top, I wanted to stay longer, but there was no time. It was getting dark, and as it was, we slipped and slid over ice and snow and rock for 3 hours to get back to base camp. Well, the next day we were so exhausted that we stayed a whole day just to rest before going down the mountain. After I climbed Huascarón, I was world famous. The Peruvian government gave me a gold medal for my achievements. And even though Huascarón was determined to not be the highest point in the Americas, my expedition was the first team to summit the North Peak. The Peruvian government named the North Peak Huascarón Cumbre Peck in my honor. I climbed mountains all my life. I never married. I never settled down in any one place. I was a suffragist because I believed women should have the right to vote. In fact, I planted a flag at the top of Monte Corapuna in Peru just to support women's right to vote. The last mountain I ever climbed was Mount Madison in New Hampshire when I was 82 years old. And that's my story.